Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and this is a 2003 Mercury Grand Marquis. In this video, I'm gonna be demonstrating how to perform a brake bleeding procedure on this Grand Marquis. First thing that you're going to do is to lift the vehicle off the ground and remove all four wheels. You also want to make sure that the arms of the lift are placed perfectly under the vehicle where it's balanced. In case if you're doing this at a place that does not have a lift like the one shown in the video, you can use a jack and 4 jack stands to lift the vehicle off the ground. Place them on those same lifting points like shown earlier with the lifting arms. Once those jack stands have been placed, you also want to keep the jack where it is lifted on whatever side you just finished putting the jack stands on. This is for safety reasons. If a jack stand fails, you will have that jack as a support for you to get out and make it stable again. As far as tools and materials as concerned for this brake bleeding procedure, you're gonna need a pressure bleed adapter kit, a fluid dispenser pump, and a ratchet with sockets or wrenches. I'll explain those what they're for later on. Also, do not forget to get brake fluid, and not just any brake fluid, the right type of brake fluid, which in the case for the Grand Marquis will be DOT 3. This brake adapter kit has multiple types of caps that can fit in different types of master cylinders. And sometimes it can come in with a piece of paper that shows you what cap is compatible with what master cylinder for whatever vehicle that you're working on. Find the right cap and put it in place where normally the regular cap of the master cylinder goes, and make sure that it's firmly tight. The container pump has a pump handle that allows you to put pressure into it. This is the amount of pressure I put in to that pump. It also has a hose that allows you to connect it to the cap of the adapter kit that's on the master cylinder. That'll allow the fluid to flow through the hose and get into the container. You may also want to open a handle that's in the hose. That way the fluid will come through the hose and get into the container. Otherwise, nothing will be done. The process how this goes is the fluid will be pushed out of the master cylinder and get into the container. And there will also be air bubbles in that way. Until you don't see any air bubbles at all, that is when you will take off that adapter cap and then add fluid into the master cylinder. Now, you also may want to do this as well. See, there's these nipples, other ones known as the bleeder screws, that you have to loosen them up and relieve pressure from the brake system. You can also pump the air out from the brake system from there as well. Just remember you have to do it in the order of from the right rear, the left rear, the right front, and the left front. You can't do it in any order that you want. It has to be in that specific order from the rear to the front. But you also have to remember that you need to have a lot of fluid with you. To keep it specific, you need a lot of fluid to put on the master cylinder if you're going to remove the air in the system from the bleeder screws. And you have to keep doing it until you do not see any more air bubbles coming out of the hose from the bleeder screws. And you may want to have a drip pan on the bottom of each bleeder screw that you're doing it on, because it's a fluid as much as your engine coolant and oil that you cannot let out in the atmosphere that easily. You can also press the brake pedal if you want to make this process go faster and not rely on the pump to push the fluid out of the system. It makes the process a lot quicker. You can also have a second person, and you and that other person can pick and choose whatever role you want to do in this situation, because somebody has to keep in check of those air bubbles and adding fluid into the master cylinder. Here's a few things that you may also want to keep in mind when it comes to bleeding your brakes. While it is true that you should always use the right type of brake fluid as specified by the manufacturer on your brake system, you also have the option to go and use a higher type of brake fluid. But here's the catch. Once you go higher, you can never go lower. What I mean is, if you want to go higher than DOT 3 and you want to use something like DOT 5, stay with DOT 5. You can never go lower, otherwise it's going to mess up the entire brake system. Though technically you can go lower in brake fluid type, but it's a whole process that involves disassembling the entire system, getting rid of the fluid, potentially getting a whole new system, and then add that said fluid. Another fact in using brake fluid, which this is in terms of safety, if you get fluid in your hands, which it could be in the case of not using gloves, wash them. because certainly you do not want to have skin irritation. And when putting fluid into the master cylinder or even having fluid in your hands, don't touch anywhere in the car because it will eat your paint up and you do not want another set of problems that you don't want to deal with. Certainly your bank account doesn't. So anyways, that is gonna be it. I hope that helped you out and have a nice day or evening.